Space, the final frontier. This is the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Its mission to explore the solar system, to seek out new observations and data, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now the host of the Observer's Notebook, Tim Robertson.
Hello and welcome to episode 188 of the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. I'm Tim Robertson, the host of the Observer's Notebook and also the coordinator of the training program within the ALPO. Thanks for downloading and listening. The Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers collects and analyzes observations of various solar system bodies and associated phenomena and publishes detailed reports concerning these bodies in its quarterly publication, the Journal of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. This podcast depends upon donations from you, our listeners, to keep it alive. If you enjoy what you hear on the podcast, you can donate to it via Patreon. You can start off by giving as little as $1 a month. If you feel even more generous, for $5, you receive early access to the podcast before it goes public. For a monthly donation of $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you receive producer credits on the podcast. You can find out more by going to www.patreon.com/observersnotebook. And if you'd like to join the ALPO, membership begins at only $22 a year. You can find out more at www.alpo-astronomy.org. And we are also on Facebook. Just search for ALPO Astronomy. And this podcast also has a Facebook page as well. Just search for Observer's Notebook. And if you enjoy what you hear in the podcast, please subscribe. That way you'll never miss another episode. And now, episode 188 with Ken Poshedly, and we're talking about the upcoming Virtual ALPO Conference. Enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this edition of the Observer's Notebook. And this time we're talking with Ken Poshedly, and we're going to be discussing the upcoming ALPO conference. Welcome to the podcast, Ken.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Now, once again, our conference will be held virtually. We've done that for the last 5 or 6 years, thanks to the pandemic. And they've gone well, don't you think?
Some things have turned out a lot better than we thought they would. Yes.
Yes, they have. Yeah. Everybody knows how to use Zoom now, which is very important opposed to the early days.
Let's see. There's 2 people that don't, but that's a different story.
That's a whole different. We won't go there. All right. The dates of the conference this year are July 26th and 27th. That's a Friday and a Saturday.
Correct.
Yeah. And we're also going to live stream it. If you can't get on the Zoom, we're going to live stream it on our ALPO YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the whole world can see what we're all about.
That's true. That's true. Start time of the conference both days is going to be at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Pacific time, and on Eastern time, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. both days.
Right. And
we have paper sessions throughout the day. Yes.
We have. We do have people from around the world watching it.
Yeah.
So that, that's good to know as well.
We have presenters from around the world too.
Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree. Yes, sirree.
Now, we also have 7 paper sessions per day, with a short lunch break in between. We ask that the presentations be limited to about 25 minutes each, with a few minutes for questions.
That's right. I was telling people 15 minutes or so. So you have that time to do a good in-depth report on your topic, or hand shadows, or whatever you can do to fill that time slot, and then also have a couple minutes left over to take questions. And there's always a few questions from the proverbial audience. We've had a few times with 1 or 2 of our presenters. They are just so into their topic that they just lose track of time, and we've gone way over. But in this case, maybe a little more is better than not enough.
I agree. We're not on a firm schedule, but we try to keep it fair for everybody.
Yeah.
And So what we recommend everybody do is do their presentation on a PowerPoint, and you'll have control of the PowerPoint for your presentation. If you're not comfortable with it, then I would do it. You have to send it to me well in advance, though. And we are looking for all sorts of topics. Do you want to talk about what type of topics we'd like to see in the?
We're talking about anybody. Now, this again, topics or presentations are to be given only by members of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. And as we always say, membership starts off rock bottom at $22 a year. You can't go wrong. We're a bargain like crazy, and you get really good worldwide coverage for what you're going to talk about. And so what we concentrate on are anything that has to do with Earth-based observations. Even in our journal, we only use satellite images when it pertains to a comparison with images taken by one of our members, down here on Earth. So if you have a special project of your own, for instance, let's say that you've discovered a different method of operating your own observatory, or let's say that you've discovered a new optical arrangement, or you've discovered a new software package for your imaging and stacking, or you've just discovered a better way to observe, whether it's meteors or comets or anything. We want to hear from you. We may not be the AAS, but at the same time, we can strive for that with our accuracy and our professionalism. So anything that has to do with observational astronomy from the Earth, we want to hear from you. Not just how to observe, but how you have observed, and maybe something interesting that you have discovered. Maybe it's a little wrinkle in the rings of Saturn, or maybe it's something different about the proverbial ashen light on the planet Venus, or in the clouds. We want to hear from you.
That's very true. And we're looking for the presentations, or that you'll commit to a presentation by July 10th. So you'd have to contact me and let me know by then what your presentation is, and I will put it on the schedule. And about a week prior to the conference, I'll post on social media the schedule of all the talks, so everyone can see when and where. And if you have a conflict in your schedule, let me know and we can move you around. But that right there is our immediate plans for this.
That's right. Everybody write this down. cometman@cometman.net. That's Tim.
That's me. And it's also in the show. All these links that we're talking about are also in the show notes below. So done listening to this, if you want to find out how to join the ALPO, it's in the show notes. If you want to find our YouTube channel, it's in the show notes. If you want to find another link for this podcast, it's in the show notes. So everything you need will be there as well.
That's right. That's right. And getting back to the arrangement of the scheduling, while we have a number of talks on Friday, and we followed that up with a number of talks on Saturday, Friday evening Eastern time at least, was when we will have the annual Board of Directors meeting. Again, this will be streamed. No, it won't be streamed. It'll be only open to members of the ALPO itself.
Through Zoom.
So, or through Zoom, exactly.
And it will be a different Zoom link than the conference had during the day. So if you're a member and you want to attend the board meeting, you're more than welcome to. Let me know in an email, and I will add you to the list of attendees for the board meeting.
That's right. That's exactly right. Then on Saturday evening, we will have the traditional featured speaker. Now, as long as I can remember, we've had outside guests do our talks, both when we were having in-person conferences and when we were doing, and when we started doing virtual conferences. This year, we're going to feature one of our longtime members, Bob Garfinkel, who's also, besides being an ALPO member, he's a fellow of the Royal Astronomical Society. and his Saturday evening presentation with PowerPoint slides. He calls it a synopsis. It's called a fantasy flight to the moon. Fantasy flight to the moon. It's going to be his address. And his little write-up to me says that beginning with the Greek writer Lucian in the 2nd century CE, a number of authors have written fantasy tales about traveling to the moon. Now, Bob's address will briefly cover the lunar stories by such authors as Edgar Allan Poe, Daniel Defoe, Cyrano de Bergerac, Jules Verne, Baron Munchausen, and others. You know, the moon is for lovers, right? Well, Bob's talk will also include some antique postcards showing lovers and the moon. So, you know, come on to the presentation, enjoy everything you can, enjoy the talk, and then afterwards you'll be loony.
There you go. Hopefully not too loony.
Not too loony.
The keynote speaker starts at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And,
Right.
Following the keynote address, we hopefully will have door prizes that we can raffle off.
Yes.
And we'll also be giving away are we doing a Peggy Haas Award this year?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
We're going to be giving Peggy Haas was the wife of our founder, Walter Haas. Walter's we give away essentially, we started giving off 2 awards, and now the number of awards is growing, but the observing award is named for Walter himself. He was a very keen observer who pushed professionalism in everything, and from the writings within the journal to how we did our observing. And he was a mathematician and professor by occupation. But his wife supported him immensely with proofreading and helping with the journal itself before she passed away. So some years after the Walter Haas Observing Award, we began with the Peggy Haas Service Award. And yes, we will be presenting those 2 awards, which include a plaque to the various recipients.
Very good. And our 3rd award is the Mike Reynolds Award, but we do not have a recipient for that this year.
Right.
That goes for someone who has outstanding contributions in the world of astronomy.
Right. And it was named for Michael Reynolds, a longtime and much, much beloved member of the ALPO, a very active member of the ALPO for many years, who unfortunately passed away from illness only, about 5 or 6 years ago, something like that.
Yep.
So we miss him immensely. And because of his outreach activities and so forth, in general, we created the Mike Reynolds Astronomy Award.
Very good. Yep. So like I mentioned, we don't have a recipient for that this year, but hopefully in the next year we have a few ideas, people, and who we can bestow that honor to.
Exactly. Have you any thoughts as to add to what I said as far as other ideas for members who want to give a talk and they're not sure about what kind of a topic? Do you have anything to add yourself?
It just basically, if people have their own projects they're doing that they can share observations with us, that'd be nice, that type of thing. Or they've, like you mentioned, a new technique for photography or something like that. Even product reviews. I mean, that might even be something we could do as well.
Yes, very nice. And as well as something that it's kind of related to what we do. The big thing, the really big thing, is climate change. Well, I'm in Metro Atlanta, and as we do this podcast, it is the middle of May, and the temperature in Atlanta today was at least 85, 86 degrees, and that's in the shade, and that's even hot for this time of the year in Atlanta. So certainly climate change is affecting our observing habits as well. Sometimes it keeps people in longer and they don't get out until later. Sometimes the climate change really messes up the weather like crazy, like unfortunately what's going on in the in Texas right now, and in the last few days, the entire what they used to call Tornado Alley is just totally overrun with tornadoes, far more than they've ever had at this time of the year, all in one day or 1 week. Maybe this is affecting our membership with their equipment, their observing habits, their techniques, or their interest level. I don't know, but it's something that maybe we can talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I look at the path of the tornadoes in the last couple of weeks, and that area I drove through on my way back from the total solar eclipse.
Yes.
And being in a travel trailer in a tornado doesn't sound like much fun to me. So I'm glad I'm home now. It was pretty gnarly the way the weather has been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned in the show notes below, we have a link to the ALPO website, my email address, the link to go to Zoom, and you have to download the program of Zoom if you want to be on the Zoom, and our YouTube channel. If you would like to attend via Zoom, you have to send me an email and requesting the Zoom link, because I'm only going to send it out to the people that have requested it, that wish to be online. We have spaces for 100 people on Zoom. If that gets filled up, then you are going to the YouTube channel to watch. But the advantage of both these is the chat functions will be turned on Zoom and also on the YouTube channel. So if you have questions for the speakers, we'll have monitors for those two sites to see whatever questions are being asked, and we'll work it that way. So you're still involved, even if you're on the YouTube channel with the presentations.
Is there a limit to the number of YouTube viewers? Is there a ceiling?
Nope. It's on the internet. Anybody who wants to log on to that, all you need is a YouTube login, which is Google, and you can get on and join us that way. Okay. And also YouTube, all of our podcasts are also available on YouTube as well.
That's great. Yep. That's great.
Yep. So other than that, like I mentioned, submission of talks. If you'd like to give a presentation, you need to be an ALPO member, and I need to get your request with a title and a short bio of yourself by July 10th. I'd like it earlier if you can, but that's the drop dead deadline, July 10th. We have about 5 spaces already taken out of the 14 for the talks. So there are a few spaces left. If you'd like to give a talk or two, please let me know at your earliest convenience.
I urge everybody in the ALPO to try and do this. It looks really good on your LinkedIn profile.
Okay, Ken. Very good. So you got anything else you'd like to add with this?
Pardon?
You have anything else you'd like to add?
No. And the best thing, remember the old phrase, free is good? Well, free is good.
Free is good. Now, I want to toss a question at you, though. I mean, we've been doing these online conferences for a while. Do you see us going back to in person?
Personally, I don't think so. Much of our membership are retirees or getting to be a retiree. Many of our members are just starting their careers, and because those who are starting their careers are still establishing themselves and may be kind of uncertain about what kind of vacations and time off they have. And then there's the retirees who don't have an open checking account. Getting around and meeting up with people going all over the country is just not doable. And the virtual conferences, our viewership is in the hundreds, I guess maybe approaching 1,000 or so, whereas the in-person attendance really dropped over the years because of those particular things that I mentioned. People just can't travel like they used to or like they want to.
That's true. Yeah. I really miss the in-person conferences. And I've hosted one in 2000, and I've been to probably 5 others. And it's a lot of fun to actually shake hands with the people like yourself that you only see through a computer screen or you talk to on the phone occasionally. I do miss it. As the board of the ALPO, we have discussed doing a hybrid conferences where we could meet in person, but also have an online presence. That I think is interesting, but I wonder what our in-person attendance might be with something like that for the same reasons you mentioned.
Yeah. 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 It is the way it is. The world is going the way it is. The internet has been a curse, and it's also been a benefit. There are so many organizations of all kinds that have benefited by making information of all kinds of topics freely available. But at the same time, what you can't get out of the internet is the personal camaraderie of meeting someone to say, not only this is what you do to do this task, but here's how you do it. Whether it's car repair or whether it's tweaking a focus knob, it's the personal, having someone there with you to say, no, don't do it. Do this. This is the way you should do it. That's what you miss. That's what you miss.
Yeah, my very first ALPO conference was in the 70s, and I met Walter Haas, I met Chick Capon, I met Don Parker, I met Jeff Beach, I met all these legends in the ALPO. I met my very first, and I was a young kid. I was in high school at the time. So it's just like, I saw all these people that I had looked up to and their observations. So that means a lot too. Meeting those people in person really was interesting. I'd like to throw this out to our listeners. If you have an opinion about doing in-person conferences or hybrid, leave it in the comment section. I'd like to see what people think about that. Maybe if there's enough interest, we could discuss it, further in the future.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
All right, Ken. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast today, and let's do this conference.
I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for having me on again.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this episode of the Observer's Notebook podcast. I again want to thank Ken Poshedly, the Executive Director of the ALPO, for coming on and helping me out discuss the upcoming 2024 virtual conference. Please plan to attend. Drop me a note and let me know you'd like to come. I'm looking forward to being there. We upload a new episode of the Observer's Notebook on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. If you do, please give us a rating and a review. I'd really appreciate it. You can also listen to us on Apple Radio, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Echo, Spotify, and the podcast is also available on the ALPO YouTube channel. You can help support the podcast by donating to it via Patreon. You can give up to $35 a month, where you'll receive 1 year's membership to the ALPO and producer credits on the podcast. And with that, I'd like to thank the producer of this podcast, Steve Siedentop, and Michael Moyer for their generous support. The link for Patreon, as well as the link to the ALPO, is in the show notes. You can get a hold of me at commentman@commentman.net or on Twitter at @ObserversNBPod. And until next time, my hope is you always have clear and steady skies. Thanks for listening.